अस्सलाम वालेकुम स्टूडेंट्स। जैसा कि आप लोगों के इल्म में है कि एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट गवर्नमेंट ऑफ सिंध ने इस सूबे भर के तमाम स्टूडेंट्स के लिए हालिया वायरस के पेश नज़र ऑनलाइन रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर्स का सिलसिला शुरू किया है। मैं शहजाद सलीम हूँ और मैं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ सिंध के एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट के तहत एक नामवर सरकारी कॉलेज में ग्रेड 17 के ओहदे पर फाइज लेक्चरर के फ़राइज़ सर अंजाम दे रहा हूँ। मेरे तमाम लेक्चर्स में फ़र्स्ट ईयर, सेकेंड ईयर, बीकॉम पार्ट 1 और बीकॉम पार्ट 2 से रिलेटेड जितने भी मेजर सब्जेक्ट्स हैं, जैसे कि एडवांस अकाउंटिंग, कॉस्ट अकाउंटिंग और बिज़नेस मैथमेटिक्स, स्टैटिस्टिक्स और एक्सेट्रा, ये सारे लेक्चरर्स रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर्स पर मुश्तमिल मेरी सारी रिकॉर्डेड वीडियोस होंगी और मेरी पूरी कोशिश होगी कि स्टूडेंट्स को ये इतनी ल्यूसिड लैंग्वेज के अंदर, इतनी सहल ज़बान के अंदर ये वीडियोस हों और कि वो उन्हें बहुत हेल्पफुल रहें। तो शुरू करते हैं, हम चलते हैं अपने पहले वीडियो लेक्चर की तरफ।
Let's start our lecture. In the syllabus of BCom Part 2, the subject cost accounting bears 8 or 9 chapters. The first chapter is accounting for manufacturing concern. This chapter is very simple and it creates a basic for all the chapters which we are going to learn some moments or some intervals ahead. So the first chapter in the subject of cost accounting is accounting for manufacturing concern. It is very simple chapter. It lays a foundation for all the other chapters which are gonna come in future. So please students, you have to pay special attention in order to comprehend, in order to understand this chapter. Now this chapter is named as accounting for manufacturing concern. In this chapter we have to learn only 3 main things. As you see in the learning objectives, the first learning objective is to understand, is to learn the statement of cost of goods manufactured, how a cost of goods manufactured statement is prepared. The second learning objective is to prepare a statement of cost of goods sold, the cost of goods sold. And the third learning objective is to pass closing entries. These 3 items create the basics for learning this chapter. This is very simple chapters, and the students of BCom Part 2 can easily get the full marks, 20 out of 20 marks. As you all know that the cost accounting subject bears 100 marks, which includes you have to attend 5 questions in your question paper. Each question bears 20 marks. So students, you will be having this question in the top list of the paper when you are gonna take this the paper of cost accounting. The first question will be seen in this chapter by you is the accounting for manufacturing concern. Now, what is accounting for manufacturing concern? We are going to take a very little overview over this. As you have studied, as you have come to know that there are 3 sort of business: the servicing business, merchandising business, and manufacturing business. We are not going to discuss servicing business or merchandising business. We are going to discuss the manufacturing business because the cost accounting subject especially concerned with the manufacturing concerns. You have to clear a difference between the cost accounting and you must be having clear understanding between the cost price and the selling price. The selling price is that price which we are going to sell to our customers. A businessman sells his commodity or his product at a price that price is called as the selling price. Now, what is the cost price? Cost price is that price in which in which a businessman pays, in which a businessman or a company which is going to prepare a product incurs some amount of cost, some amount of expenses. So in short, the cost price is that price which is going to be incurred or which have incurred in the preparation of the product or the article. So in cost accounting, we are going to calculate the cost price of an article or of a product. Now that's why we are going to learn these three learning objectives: the cost of goods manufactured, the statement of cost of goods sold, and closing entries. Now we are going to take up the first learning objective, the statement of cost of goods manufactured. The students will be asked in the examination by giving some data in the question. The students are asked to prepare the cost of goods manufactured statement. It is very simple statement. I am going to show the format of this statement. You simply learn by having your special attention over this statement, and you will easily attempt this sort of question which is based upon the statement of cost of goods manufactured. Now, what is cost of goods manufactured? It is, as it is written, the cost of goods manufactured, also called the cost of goods completed. It calculates the total value of inventory that was produced during the period and is ready for sale. What manufacturing business or manufacturing concerns do? They are gonna prepare, they are gonna produce, they are gonna manufacture first the product or article, then afterwards they are going to sell at a profit. The amount of money which they have spent, which companies have spent on the production of that article or the commodity or the product, it is called as the cost of goods manufactured. Now we are going to calculate how cost of goods manufactured is going to calculate through or by means of a statement we are going to see in the form of a format first. Now this is the format for the cost of goods manufactured. You see, students, first of all, one more thing to say that we are going to discuss the formula for the cost of goods manufactured later on, after this after the completion of this chapter. But at this moment we are going to skip this step. What is the formula of cost of goods manufactured? Now we are not going to discuss this sort of things. Now first we have to look at the format for the cost of a statement of the cost of goods manufactured. First you have to put the name of the business, like that, ABC Company Limited, whatever the name of the business you may be given in the question, you have to put the name of the business over here. Then afterwards the statement, the name of the statement, the statement of cost of goods manufactured, and then afterwards you have to write the heading, like that, for the period ended on blah 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 blah, whatever the time period may be given in the question paper. This heading bears 2 marks in the examinations. After 20 marks, this heading bears 2 marks. If you wrongly written the heading of this statement, you will be losing 2 marks maximum. So please have a great care for not losing any single marks. Now first of all, the first section of this statement is raw material consumed. What is raw material? Raw material means when you are gonna produce anything, you have to put some amount of goods which is in raw form. Raw form means that goods which is not in order to which is not in a condition to use. First you have to transform it to make it in a usable condition. For example, when you are gonna prepare furniture, you have to use woods. The woods or the timber is a raw material in order to prepare furniture, wooden furniture. In order to prepare bread, you have to use flour as a raw material. The raw material means anything which is in unusable condition, which needs some transformation, which becomes a part of the finished goods. So raw material you have understood, I hope. Now the raw material means that goods which you are gonna put in order to transform it to make in a finished product, to convert in a finished product, to make a product in its refined form. Now, how we are going to calculate the raw material consumed? First, we are having in the question, we are given the amounts of the raw material at start. Raw material at start means the amount of raw material. What amount of raw material we were already be having in our material storerooms. How, when this accounting period was started, what amount of raw material we were having. So we are going to put the amount of raw material over here. Then afterwards we are going to add the raw material net purchases. Raw material net purchases means what amount of further raw material we have purchased during this entire period. The raw material at the start means the amount of raw material which we were having in the last accounting period. The ending balance of anything in the last accounting period will be the beginning balance, will be the balance of beginning for the next accounting period, as we have already known that. Now, the raw material is, at the start means the amount of raw material at the start when the accounting period is started. Then afterwards, net purchases of raw material means how much more amount of raw material we have purchased during this accounting period. Now, the raw material purchase starts from raw material purchase gross. Gross means the raw material which we have purchased from our suppliers, from whom we are gonna purchase the raw materials. This raw material includes purchase returns and allowance and purchase discount. The amount of raw material, gross raw material, we are gonna put over here. Out of this gross raw material purchase, we are going to deduct two sort of raw materials. The raw material returns, maybe it may be possible that we have returned some raw materials because of non-compliance with our orders, or because of the defectiveness. We have returned to it to the same supplier. That's why we are gonna deduct this raw material returns from here. Then how much amount of discount we have got by paying within a discount period or something else. Now we are going to deduct these two things, raw material returns and raw material discount, from the amount of gross raw material purchases. After having deducted the two amounts, the raw material returns and raw material discount, from the gross amount of raw material purchase, we are gonna calculate, we are gonna get the amount of raw material net purchases. The net purchases means the amount of raw material returns and raw material discount have been deducted from the gross raw material purchased. After having got the amount of raw materials, we are gonna add up the transportation in. Transportation means the amount of money which we have incurred in order to take the raw materials from the supplier to our destination, to our factory, where we are gonna use this raw material. After having added up this raw material into the raw material net purchases, we are gonna get the total delivered cost. Delivered cost includes the two things: raw material net purchases and transportation in. After having added up these two amounts, we are going to calculate the delivered cost. After having calculated the value of delivered cost, we are going to add this delivered cost into the raw material at start. Raw material at start added with the delivered cost give the total cost of raw material available for use. This raw material is that raw material which we were having during the entire accounting period. After having got the total cost of raw material used, we are going to subtract the raw material at end. It means the what amount of raw material which we are still having at the moment. What is the current situation of raw materials? What is the current situation of the raw material at the moment? What cost of raw material is still lying at the end of the accounting period in our raw material storerooms. That's why we are going to deduct these raw materials from the total cost of raw materials available for use, in order to get the amount of raw materials consumed or used. This is the total amount of raw material which we have incurred, this total cost of raw material which we have incurred in order to, in the entire accounting period. This is the first element of cost. As we all know that there are three main elements of cost: the raw materials used, the labor, direct labor incurred, and then afterwards the factory overhead. Of these three elements of cost, we have calculated the first element of cost, which is named as raw material consumed. Again, we have calculated the raw material consumed out of three main elements of cost, which is named as raw material used, factory direct labor cost, and the factory overhead. These are three main element of cost: raw material used, direct labor, and FOH. FOH stands for factory overhead cost. Raw material used we have calculated. Now we are going to see the direct labor cost. Direct labor means those labors which are deployed on the machines in order to prepare, in order to manufacture the products. Or in other words, the direct labor means are those labors which are actual creators of the article or of a product. All those labors which are working on the machines, on the assembly lines, on the cutting process, on the assembling process, or whatever else. They are, in other words, they are directly involved in order to manufacture a product. These are called as direct labor. So how much amount of money, how much costs have been assigned in order to provide the remuneration or payroll to the direct labors, we are going to add into the amount of direct labor used in order to make the total of the two elements of cost out of three. Then afterwards we are moving over to the third element of cost, which is named as factory overhead. Overhead means expenses. Now the factory overhead means what expenses have been incurred during the production period or after the production. It includes the internal indirect material, indirect labor, and other manufacturing overheads. Indirect materials means all those material which are indirectly involved in the production of in the manufacturing of a product. For example, if we are going to prepare wooden furnitures, the wood would be the direct materials. But as far as the nails are concerned, or varnishes or polish are concerned, these all will be termed as indirect material. They are not directly involved. Definitely, no doubt, they would be a part of the total manufacturing cost. They will work as a material, but they will be treated as indirect material, because we are going to purchase in a market the wooden furniture. Not we are going to we are not gonna go to purchase nails or varnishes or polish which are lying on the furnitures. Now if we are going to purchase wooden furniture into the market, so then that means the wood would be the direct material. But as far as the other materials are concerned, as like we have discussed, the nails or varnishes or polishes, so all these sort of things will be treated as indirect materials. Likely indirect labors. Indirect labors means the watchman, the fireman, the manager. That are all those labors which are not directly involved in the production of a product, but definitely they would be a part of the manufacturing process. That's why we are going to incur the amount of the remuneration or the amount of salaries, the amount of money which we have incurred over these indirect labors. But after all, they are indirect labors, and we have incurred some amount of money. That's why we are going to include this amount of money into the cost of production. Means so the factory overhead includes indirect material, indirect labor, and other manufacturing overheads, like other manufacturing overhead means heat, power, light, which have been used during the production in the premises of a factory or the production department. uh, uh, Heat, light, power, fuel, petrol, kerosene, oil, blah 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 blah. All these indirect expenses will be treated as other manufacturing overhead. All these three items will make up a factory overhead. The amount of, after having added up these three amounts, we are going to calculate the total amount of factory overhead. Now we have, after having all these three, cost of production, the first is raw material used, direct labor used, and factory overhead. When we add up these three amounts, that means the total, the three main elements of cost, which we are going to get the total manufacturing cost for the period, or the total cost of goods put into the production. The amount after having added up these three main cost of elements, the raw material used, the direct labor, and the factory overhead, we are going to calculate the amount, the total manufacturing cost, or in short, we say that the total of these three, the raw material use, direct labor, and factory overhead, is called as total manufacturing cost. The amount of total manufacturing cost means what total amount we have incurred during this entire accounting period. Let's say we have started production from the January 1 till December 31st of a certain year. This entire 12 months will be treated as the accounting period, and during this 12 periods, this will 12 months, what amount the total of what amount we have incurred will be called as the total manufacturing cost. Now we are going to then, afterwards, having calculated the total manufacturing cost, we are going to add up the work in process at start. What does it mean? It means that what amount of work we have left over at the end of the preceding accounting period or a preceding year. Whatever amount of work we have left up during the last accounting period will be treated as the work in process balance for the upcoming year. For example, we have incurred the cost of 1 lakh of rupees, let's suppose, on the work in process on December 31st, the previous year. It would be the beginning balance of work in process on the first upcoming year. So now we are going to add up the work in process at start into the amount of the total manufacturing cost, and we will be getting the total work in process during the period. This would be the total work in process because it includes the total manufacturing cost, the amount of cost which we have incurred during the accounting period, and adding up having added up the what amount of work we have already been incurred in the last previous year. These two amounts, after having these two amounts, we are going to receive the total. We are going to calculate the total cost of work to put in process. Then afterwards, we are going to deduct the work in process ending. It means that what is the current position in the factory, in the manufacturing plant? What amount of work is still is under process, underway, in the pipeline? Now we are going to deduct this amount of work from the total cost of work in process in order to get the cost of goods manufactured. The total cost of work put into process means what amount of work we have done during the accounting period, of which still some amount of work is still incompleted, is still unfinished, is still underway, is still in the pipeline. Now because since this is not is completed now, therefore we are going to deduct this amount of money from the total cost of work in process. And finally, consequently, we have got the cost of goods manufactured. This is the simple statement. Students, you have to simply go through once or twice, and you will be simply getting this statement. Now we have calculated the cost of goods manufactured. Now we are moving over to the other learning objective, which is named as the cost of goods sold. In the examination questions, students are asked to prepare the statement of cost of goods